Time for the reverse grid race in the 7 Racing 310R and 270R UK Championship. Hello, welcome along. What a great race we had earlier on in the day, where Ben Winrow was able to take victory by a very small margin. The top 5 in the 310R category separated by less than a second, with Winrow ahead of Goldstein, Oulton, Everett and Denman indeed. Obviously, very tight battles earlier on in the day. Very extremely exciting battles. Of course, Amanda Anderson was able to take victory in the 270Rs as well. The temperature coming down by a couple of degrees from that race earlier on in the day, but the wind still remaining quite high, and the racing potential still even higher, as the top 10 has been reversed around from the finishing positions of the previous race, meaning that Simon Sharrock will be starting from the reverse grid pole. Of course, finished in 10th position. In 9th place in that race then would have been Phil Ingram. Behind that, it will be Rob Good starting from 3rd position, and of course Tim Steele starting from 4th. Behind that will be Fraser Riddington and Craig Denman, and then of course Caroline Everett alongside Russ Oliver, who had some great overtakes in the previous race. Paul Goldstein will be starting from 9th. He was very patient in the previous race. Probably will need to be less patient in this one. Ben Winrow was able to take victory in the race earlier on. Scott Parker and Ian Anderson in 11th and 12th, with Michael Curley in 13th position. Amanda Anderson, victorious in the 270R category, will start from 14th overall, with David Hall and James Hall starting from 15th and 16th, making it an all-Hall row 8. Neville Sykes in 17th, with Marcelo Spada. Of course, the final row of the grid seeing James McCulloch and Merton Wood, the 20th and final car on the grid. So again, we had a very exciting race earlier on in the day, and we are expecting very much the same thing once more. It will be a rolling start. It will be 25 minutes as we had, and it will be intense racing. That's the important bit. You know, we've seen with the 310R and 270R UK Championship that yes, sure, you have to be patient, like what we've seen from the likes in the previous race, of course, of Paul Goldstein. Kind of need to see very much the same thing again. That patience, that waiting for the race to come to you. But again, if you wait too long, well, the race will be very far ahead of you, and we're expecting this being a reverse grid race to be that slight bit more chaotic than the race earlier on in the day. 13 laps is the expected race distance over the 25-minute period. Give or take a lap, but it will most likely be 13 laps though, depending on if there's any safety car interruptions. So, through the final corner they go, and then dropping down the hill. The race control starter will have the lights active, and they'll come up into Deer Leap, where the race will then begin on the start-finish straight. The safety car will pull over to the right-hand side, back into pit lane, and the control will be held. Simon Sharrock, Phil Ingram on the front row of the grid. Rob Good, Tim Steele on the row behind. And the race ready to go as 25 minutes gets the green flag. The lights go out and we're racing once again here at Oulton Park. That race down in the first corner with Simon Sharrock on the inside line as they'll fan out to 3 and 4 wide in the background. Simon Sharrock holding on to the race lead. Tim Steele was trying to get through into potentially even second position as they head their way through the first corner at Old Hall. But I can see has actually settled in then into 3rd position in category. It will still be Phil Ingram holding on to 2nd. Tim Steele trying to fend off around the outside at the moment, as I believe it's Russ Oliver, who made a great start on the previous race, has made a great start in this one as well. Already up potentially even into 3rd position. We'll have to wait and see the confirmation on that one as they head their way through the right-hander. And then up is the 33, I believe, of Russ Oliver, then up into 3rd spot. There is Caroline Everett straight around the outside, trying to hang on or maybe even gain a spot, I believe, going side by side, potentially even with Ben Winrow as they return to single file action and then punch their way out of the corner here, and then on the back stretch at Hilltop. It is still the number 5 of Phil Ingram then, who's at the head of this train. I think Simon Sharrock is still... No, Simon Sharrock's actually lost the race into Phil Ingram. He's definitely in the race lead then, so has gained that one, I believe. We'll update that one at the line, but it is definitely Phil Ingram in first place. You can tell with the very distinctive orange roll cage on the number 5 car. There you've got, of course, the number 8 Simon Charrett. Then it is the 33 of Russ Ollivant behind, before we'll get to Tim Steele, who currently runs in 4th position. There comes a look down the inside, an aggressive one coming in from the 24, trying to find their way into the mix and into the battle. As they'll, sorry, it's the 124, rather, it's Ben Winrow in the 124, trying to find their way into this fight. Now trying to fend off the number 29, Denman, also involved in that train as they head their way then to complete the first lap. Ingram from Sharrock, from Ollivant, from Steele, from Winrow, from Denman, Goldstein, Everett, Good, and Ian Anderson. The lead of the 270R category is currently the number 16, I believe, at present, which of course is James Hall. David Hall is directly behind that in the 270R category, meaning Amanda Anderson has dropped back a couple of positions on the race start, but I believe Amanda Anderson actually dropped back to 3rd in the previous race as well. Racing though has switched around, and it is now in favour of Ollivant, but this will switch around a lot during this 25-minute race, so forgive me for not getting on the edge of my seat levels of excitement, because we've got to be sitting at an 8 to get ready for the inevitable 10 that will need to be turned up to for those final few laps of the race, because this is going to get very exciting. It's Ollivant then leading this race from the number 5 of Ingram. The 124 of Winrow has gained 5 positions on the previous lap, has already gained 2 positions on this lap before potentially even going after an attack for the race lead. Side by side there at the back end of the top 10 as they'll work their way through this. The 16, the 18 and the 47. The 47 being that green car is Amanda Anderson. Ahead of that is David Hall, then James Hall as well. 14th, 15th, 16th overall. And of course, 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the 270R category. Here we go then. Second lap ready to be complete. Move to the inside coming in from the number 5. Trying to fire one down the inside of the 33 of Ollivant. And it will indeed be Phil Ingram getting aggressive here, getting racy. Ben Winrow now trying to throw his way into the mix, going side by side. Winrow on the furthest left, Ollivant then on the furthest right, and will hang on to the race lead as they head their way into that first corner. But importantly, Winrow has been able to take over 2nd position at present through the right-hander, dropping down the hill. Winrow with the fastest lap of the race as expected, having taken over 2nd. It's still Ollivant leading this race. Winrow getting past Ingram. Ingram going back on the attack as they head their way down Lakeside. Ingram to the inside as they head their way into the island bend. Backs out of it, doesn't fancy that one, and understandably so. Again, the battle was behind the likes of Steele. You'll see Steele's actually dropped back behind Denman. So Steele's now down into the 5th position. Denman has worked his way up now into 4th. A lot of curb being taken there as they flick through the right-hand part of the Britain's chicane. There is Winrow, 2nd position, victorious earlier on in the day, looking for another into the slipstream of the 33. Got the 5 directly behind of Ingram. Behind that, it's the 29 of Denman. Behind that, it's Steele. Behind that is Goldstein, who was, again, as I've mentioned before quite a few times, was very patient in the previous race. Remains patient in this, picking their way through bit by bit. Could still find themselves onto the podium in 19 minutes and 30 seconds time. Into Druids they go. 19 minutes, 30 seconds left. Still so much time. Realistically from this point, it's another 10 laps of racing that we've got to deal with. There comes a look to the inside. Winrow sends it. The 33 of Ollivant has to settle for 2nd. Winrow is through into the race lead. Phil Ingram throwing his way back into the mix. Still side by side for the race lead. Right-hand side is Ollivant. Left-hand side is Winrow. Behind that as well, you've got the 29 of Denman going straight around the outside. Not just of Ingram, but potentially of Winrow as well. Running completely wide though. Going through Old Hall onto the green painted concrete. Can't make the move up if you're going around there. It'll almost certainly be a post-race time penalty. So does indeed back out of it and settles a 4th position. So it's Ollivant leading from Winrow now. From Ingram, the side-by-side though sees Ingram and Denman go side by side on the rundown Lakeside. Goldstein is in 5th position. I said he was patient. Currently carrying his way through, carving up the field. Having got past Steele in the race into the first corner, the 150 now runs in 5th position. Right in the hunt for victory, for a podium, for something special this afternoon. But it is, of course, Oulton, the one who is in position at the moment. 7-car train for the race league, correction 8. Oulton, Winrow, Ingram, Denman, Steele, Goldstein, Everett and Good. Sharrock a little bit off the rear end of that train, also defending from Parker. So it could be 10 for the race lead if Sharrock and Parker are able to close their way back in on this fight, which, knowing how they fight, very much so. Love the gold helmet as well. Again, I like using anything shiny on a car. I like shiny things, and the Goldstein's car's pretty shiny, and the helmet as well, really adding to the flair. So they flick it through the right-hander onto the final stretch down into Lodge Corner, and it is Oulton all over the road, trying to keep Winrow at bay. The top 5 separated by around a second at this point in the race. Top 4's by a second. 5th, Goldstein's a little bit too far back to count it for the top 5 by a second, and indeed that is the case. 1.6 separates top 5. Less than a second separates the top 4 though. And less than 2/10 of a second separates 1st to 2nd place. Oulton, Winrow, Denman, Ingram, Goldstein, and then of course the lights behind of Steele, Everett, Good, Parker, Sharrock that we've already spoken about. The lead of the 270R category has switched round, I will add. It is the 18 of David Hall ahead of James Hall. So those two have switched round in the 270R category. Amanda Anderson remains in 3rd in the class. There is a look at the battle for the lead in the 270R category. The 18 of David Hall in the silver car, James Hall in the blue, and then that green car of Amanda Anderson also in the fight for the podium and potentially the fight for the victory. Amanda Anderson was victorious earlier on in the day, not too far ahead of Sparta. Out wide though goes David Hall. James Hall then with the inside line as they flip their way through the right-hander. That's never going to work out into the Britain chicane, so don't worry about that. That will not be the lead change, trust me. So we can refocus back up here and the battle for the overall race lead, where Oulton, where Winrow, where Denman, Ingram, Goldstein are still fighting. Caroline Everett's also got past Steele, so you can see the green and blue car now up into 6th position. All trying to find their way through as they head into Druids. It looks like it's too wide. It's not. The Rovers finding their own individual line as they head their way through. Now we're too wide though in the battle for 2nd. Winrow not with a particularly good run. Denman looking down the inside at the final corner. Winrow's gone out wide. Denman now works his way through then into 2nd position. Now comes Phil Ingram. Now comes Goldstein as well. Winrow getting wrong-footed 10 minutes into this race, and they're 4 wide on the start-finish straight. Goldstein down the inside. This could end in tears. They remain 4 wide as they flick their way through the right-hander at Old Hall. It was Goldstein fully on the inside. Then it was Phil Ingram. And then it was Winrow. And then Caroline Everett's the one who's paid the price heftiest of all in all that, dropping back down into 8th position, I believe, as they head their way through. Thankfully, though, the skill of the driver, they've all remained on the racetrack. That was wild. That could end in tears so quickly. One bit of contact and it's done as they head their way through. Speaking of contact, Steele there, Tim Steele defending so aggressively there with the, I believe, the number 29. What a big slide on the high side of the circuit. Sorry, it was the 36 there of Good. A little bit of contact, was definitely squeezing quite aggressively there at the island bend though was Tim Steele, and the big slide off the corner was Caroline Everett, able to work her way through and that back into what I believe is 7th position. And we can come. It's fine. 14 minutes left to go. It's Oulton leading. It's Denman behind. It's Ingram, then it's Winrow. This is back to the battle for the race lead in the 270R category, where things will surely be just as hectic. Amanda Anderson, James Hall, David Hall. David Hall, the one, the leader of this group in the... correction. It's James Hall who's the leader of this group in the 16. So James Hall's worked his way through, then it's David Hall, and then it's Amanda Anderson, the top 3 in the 270R category. bit of a gap there forming between 4th position and 5th as Tim Steele trying to defend in the background. There comes a look to the inside, and there comes the big commitment from the 1-2-4 of Winrow, who I think has had a bit of a problem here because he's dropped off the rear end of the likes of Ingram. Winrow not having a good lap, as we'll see Goldstein straight down the inside for 2nd spot, trying to take over the 29 from Denman. Denman then getting passed by Goldstein. And there is a car into the barrier at the first corner. We'll have to wait and see. I believe, based on the colour of that car, that will be good in the number 36 car that has been off of the road. And that at Old Hall, if that's not sorted by them getting out on their own power, and I don't believe it will be, that might require and necessitate a safety car intervention. But of course, race control, the one who made the decision on that, and they'll be keeping a close eye on it to see if they're able to get that car. It's just such a fast corner, you can't just leave a car there. So, this is the battle for the 270R lead, and once again, this is the battle for 2nd position in the 270Rs. It's David Hall and Amanda Anderson going side by side, but David Hall is able to keep it being a Hall 1-2, as the 18 is able to keep the 47 at bay. Out of the car then, and obviously, well, he's slightly frustrated with how things are going, but with how tight that battle was, I think that was always going to happen. I do believe it was good. No confirmation as of yet, but I believe it was indeed good who was off the road. And here comes Amanda Anderson in the fight for 2nd in the 270Rs. Anderson to the outside, onto the brakes, they head into his lots. No move, no, still no move. So David Hall is able to hang on. Fastest lap, by the way, in the lead category in the 310Rs. Did go the way on the previous lap of Goldstein. I can understand that. Might even be another one here coming soon as the top 4 continue to battle. It's Ollivant currently leading from Goldstein behind, and the safety car has just been deployed. So they'll get the note as they come across the start-finish line now. Safety car deployed in the race. Ollivant, Goldstein, Denman and Ingram, the top 4. With Steele, Everett and Winrow down then into 4th position. Confirmation, it was indeed the number 36 of Rob Good, who was the one who dropped down the order courtesy of being off at T1. So race control feeling and necessitating an intervention of safety car, and of course the service vehicles to go out there and assist that car in getting out of the gravel trap with 10 minutes and 50 seconds left to go. Couple of laps behind the safety car and we'll be back racing again, I'm sure. If we require a 3rd lap behind the safety car, we won't have the time, I think, to get back racing. It should take about 4 minutes per lap under safety car. So Ollivant leading the way. Of course, in the race earlier on in the day, ended up finishing in 3rd position. Paul Goldstein 2nd, was 2nd in the race earlier on in the day as well. Craig Denman was 5th in the race earlier on in the day, currently runs in 5th. The big turnaround though is the 1-2-4 of Ben Winrow, who of course was victorious earlier on in the day, currently sits in 7th position in this race. Not 100% sure as to how he found himself down in that position, because of course was in the high gaggle. I mean, to be fair, the 8 or 9 cars were all in one big train, and then they were separated, and that was where Ben Winrow was found down in the second of those 2 groups. And so unfortunately, being on the wrong side of history there, it might be evident. Wonder if safety car will note any form of penalty or such to be dished out there, or whether it will all be dealt with post-race. We'll say the fastest lap on the previous, it was Goldstein, 54.882. That was obviously as they were going into the safety car zone. But it was Goldstein keeping the pressure on Ollivant. And once again showing that there is maybe slightly more pace in Goldstein's car. Is there a potential victory out there to be grabbed once the safety car returns to pit lane? It won't be this time by. They'll remain it out on the circuit. Across the line with probably about 8 minutes left to go. If it does, probably about 7 minutes 30 left to go. If it is a 4-minute lap, like I said, we'd need the safety car in at the end of the next lap. But again, those are all the things that race control will be monitoring very closely indeed. So, getting the tow rope out to pull Rob Good's car out from the gravel track. I don't know if it hit the barrier too hard. I'm sure it would have actually lost quite a lot of speed going through the gravel track. It's the point of the gravel track after all. And so by the time it hits the barrier, it's not going too quickly, which means it doesn't do too much damage, relatively speaking, to the car, and relatively speaking to the barrier as well, meaning that the repairs required to the barrier should be lessened as such, meaning that the marshals can swiftly get that one into position, and hopefully we can get the race back underway. They'll come down the hill and finish the 8th lap of the race. We're definitely not getting 13, I can tell you that for free. That one is definitely still it's more likely. So if the safety car were to come in at the end of this lap, which they're on, there would be roughly 3 minutes left to go, 3 and a bit minutes left to go. So after this, we'd have 2 more laps left, meaning we'd have 11 laps of racing. So obviously, one more of the safety car takes us to the end of 9. 2 further laps takes us to 11, and that would take us to the checkered flag. That is provided we get the race underway at the end of this lap. I think by the way that they're getting that car out of the gravel track, there is some potential likelihood they're getting this race back underway, which I'm pretty excited about, because this race has been entertaining. The previous race was very entertaining as well, and so by the time we get this one back underway, I'm sure we're going to be dealing with some very favourable racing indeed. I wonder if that car will still work, as whether they're going to put it behind the wall or whether he's going to fire it up and then bring it back to the pit lane. Kind of one of those ones that almost doesn't make much of a difference to the race. He's effectively out. He's required the assistance from the marshals to get back into the race, and thus is no longer a participant in this race as far as I'm aware. But he is back behind the wheel, is Rob Good, and so could theoretically drive it back round to the pit lane, or more realistic, into the pit garage and retire from the race. They are just going to push it behind the wall and get that one sorted post-race then, which is a fair shout. Saves him dragging gravel all the way over the racetrack, especially on that run down into Cascades, which is so enormously difficult. No note from race control that the safety car will be in this lap, but I'm pretty sure it will be now that is sorted, once the marshals have double checked and tested that barrier is in working order on the exit of the first corner, and then the race should hopefully be returned to racing action. Oulton will be leading from Goldstein, from Denman, from Ingram, from Steele, from Everett, from Winrope, from Parker, Sharrock, Riddington, then of course Ian Anderson and Curley. The lead of the 270R category is in the hands of James Hall, David Hall behind, Amanda Anderson, Neville Sykes, McCulloch, Spada, and of course Wood. The sole retirement from the race is that of Rob Good. So it's once we get to the run into Druids is the final point where the safety car driver is able to turn off their lights and get back going to racing. So not this corner here, not the next. It's that run into Druids, the double right-hander, where the race control can make a decision. If not, very unlikely we'll actually have enough time to go back racing. So we'll have to wait and see. It's this point here. If the lights remain on, there we go. Bam. If the lights were to remain on, we probably wouldn't be back racing. The lights have turned off, meaning we'll have 2 laps of racing left to go. Depending on lap times, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. It might be close to 3. You never know. We'll have to wait and see. I'll double check once they cross the line. It's Oulton though with the control. It's Goldstein behind. It's Denman, then Ingram, then Steele. The top 5 at the moment. And already going is Oulton. Through the final corner, dropping down the hill and back up again with 4 minutes and 13 seconds left to go. We might well have 3 laps of racing left. It will be tight, but I think we can get 3 in here if they push hard enough. Let's wait and see. Is Oulton leading from Goldstein and Denman though? That's the important bit. Caught basically the rest of the field napping there, did Oulton, and that might be the best way to do it in this, where it is supposed to be a big pack race. If you're able to get back going again as quickly as possible, you're going to be attacked. Goldstein is going to get an opportunity. Denman, Ingram, they're probably going to rejoin this fight, but by getting back going again early, by trying to catch them off guard, the potential is you're only going to be dealing with one or two of them for a little while until the rest of the pack closes its way back up. We'll have to wait and see as to whether Winrow is able to return up into this fight. I think that's maybe slightly unlikely. Does have to focus on trying to get past Caroline Everett first. I believe that move might have switched round already in the background. It is indeed. So Winrow has got past Everett, so it is 6th position at present for Winrow. However, look at the gap up then to Tim Steele. It's already quite large, probably close to a second and a bit. Of course, Winrow is fast enough to close that one back down if they're all battling in this group. Deep into the slipstream, keeping close. Goldstein trying to fight away past Ollivant at the moment. Then Denman and Ingram. The 4 of these cars all relatively close, all embroiled in the fight for the race lead. Tim Steele's not too far behind. Could find their way back into the fight for the race lead if there's further battling. Here comes Goldstein looking to the outside, second in the race earlier on in the day, looking for victory through the final corner. 2 minutes, 10 left to go at the line. We've definitely got enough time for 2 further laps. So, penultimate lap of the race then, here to begin. There comes the look to the inside, and a big send coming in from Goldstein. The switch for the race lead, as Goldstein will hit the front of the field. It's Ollivant then down into 3rd place. Down into 2nd place. In 3rd, it's still Denman. Then it's Phil Ingram in 4th position. Tim Steele, a fair way off the rear end of that. Ben Winrow, victorious earlier on in the day, has 2 laps to close up and to pass a lot of them if he's able to take the clean sweep this weekend. That feels like an impossibility at present. Into the Shell Oils corner, and Ollivant is looking for an opportunity. It's more, though, looking back to Phil Ingram with the orange highlights on the roll cage that was trying to find their way through onto the final step of the podium by trying to muscle their way past Denman. Tim Steele back into the fight. Winrow's dragging Caroline Everett with him, and Caroline Everett, she might have a good chance at a solid result should any major dramas happen from this group, and dramas are only round the corner in this championship. But for Goldstein, a solid round of points, a solid pool of points over this round could be acquired if this race is able to be seen out to a victory. A 2nd place and a 1st would be an excellent weekend here in the 310R and 270R UK Championship of 7 racing. Outside line coming in though, as Ollivant's going to try and send one around the outside at Druids. That one's not going to work, and so it is still the 150 of Goldstein hanging on to the race lead. Very close between the top 4, 10ths of a second between them. They work their way onto the start-finish straight. 20 seconds left to go. We should have one final lap after this one as they'll cross the line. It will be Goldstein leading. Ollivant's looking to the inside. Ollivant's going to try and send it here at Old Hall at the first corner. And on the start of the final lap, it's Ollivant back through into the race lead on Goldstein. Denman and then Phil Ingram round out the top 4. Tim Steele's got Ben Winrow to think about, because Winrow's now knocking at the door for a position inside the top 5. As they go through the corner at Cascades, there was a bit of a slide in the background from Steele, and I think Winrow might be through fairly soon. Here comes a look to the inside as they head their way into the island bend. That one's not going to work out. Goldstein has to settle for 2nd, but might well even be 3rd position before he knows about it, because filling the mirror is Denman trying to close their way in. Phil Ingram looks to the outside, no switch there, and already in the background Tim Steele has dropped back then into 6th position, because Ben Winrow has got through into 5th spot. That was expected after a bit of a slide in the background coming in from Steele. And so Steele dropping back then into 6th spot in that yellow, black and sort of silvery car. With a timer on 0, they all know that this is the final opportunity for them to make up any spots. And for Ollivant, who looked so impressive in the previous race, is looking impressive once more. This is the battle though back in the 270R. It's James Hall ahead of Amanda Anderson. Further back from this is David Hall. So this is the battle for victory in the 270R category. Amanda Anderson trying to sweep the weekend. Not many opportunities left to go in that category. Maybe that run into the final corner. We'll have to jump back and see once we've seen this lot cross the line. It's a perfect run at present coming in from Ollivant. Goldstein unable to work his way back through. Looks like it's going to be a pair of second place finishes for Goldstein, missing out on the gold and having to settle for silver. Or will there be the big drag race up towards the line? They're going to be separated by a tiny margin. The checkered flag waves and it will be Ollivant taking victory by just about a tenth of a second. Goldstein settling then for second spot. Third will be Denman, and across the line in the battle of victory in the 270Rs, it'll be James Hall taking victory from Amanda Anderson, who will have to settle for second after a victory earlier in the day. What a fantastic race. What a fantastic pair of races here in the 7 Racing 310R and 270R UK Championship. And again, it's Ollivant, your race winner. Goldstein and Denman on the podium behind. Winrow was able to recover to 5th behind, though, Phil Ingram. There, though, is your race winner, Ollivant. Superb drive. Here comes the number 12 across the line, our final finisher. The driver that is Wood, unfortunately, across the line at the rear end of the field. Merton Wood, who was 20th in the previous race, and once again at the back end of the field in this one. Ross Ollivant, though, 3rd position in the previous race. The gap, 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the previous race was smaller than the gap between 1st and 2nd in this one. Shows how tight it was in the previous one. To be fair, couple of tenths of a second, it's all the same, isn't it? It's all very, very close indeed. There is your race winner then. So it's a 3rd and a 1st over the weekend. For Goldstein, it's a 2nd and a 2nd. For Ben Winrow, though, a 1st and a 5th. The 5th being probably quite disappointing, unfortunately, for Ben Winrow, as they'll head their way round to complete the lap and bring it back into pit lane. A well-fought race, it must be said, between our top grouping, and the provisional results will be accordingly. Ross Ollivant at the front of the field, then Goldstein in 2nd, then Denman in 3rd onto the podium after finishing in 5th position in the previous race. Phil Ingram did finish right the way down in 9th after a bit of drama late on. Started this race from 2nd, drops down to 4th on the road in this race. Then it's Ben Winrow, then Steele, then Everett, before we'll get to Parker, Sharrock and Riddington, still in the 310R category. The final finishes in that 310R category, Ian Anderson, then Curley. James Hall will be the victor in the 270R category, with Amanda Anderson behind, and David Hall there in 15th position, but 3rd in class. Of course, McCulloch in 16th. Then Neville Sykes, Spada, Wood, and of course the lone retirement from the race. Of course, unfortunate there for Rob Good, retiring at the first corner after a bit of an incident, being sent off and into the barrier. Of course, for the 7 Racing 310R and 270R, they'll be back racing, same as with the 7 Racing Championships 410R series, when we go racing back at Silverstone for the 4th round of the UK Championship here. That will be on the 2nd and 3rd of August, and yes, you heard me right, Silverstone, the Grand Prix layout, the full layout there. So we'll have to wait and see how things unfold in just over a month's time. Thank you for joining us here, though. We'll see you on the 2nd and 3rd of August when the 7th Racing Championship returns to the home of British motorsport. Until then, though, bye-bye.